What's up? Welcome back to the channel. I discovered recently that I created an entire subconscious feedback loop accidentally with binging protein bars at Wawa. Okay, this is very specific. There's a very specific place, and it only happens there. I didn't even realize until I went to Miami this past weekend for the Women in Wealth conference. And while I was in Miami, there was no Wawa. And I did not binge, even though there's 20 million other gas stations or places that I could have picked up protein bars. No, I didn't. I created an entire subconscious feedback loop around one location. If I can create a subconscious feedback loop around one location, can you imagine the amount of subconscious feedback loops that have been created in your mind over a certain item, a certain place that can be affecting your life negatively and we don't even realize? That was my aha moment within the last couple of days because I came back to Orlando and while I was driving and I saw Wawa, it was like the craving hit. And I was like, wait a second. I was just in Miami for the last 4 days. And this did not happen once. And now all of a sudden I'm back and I'm getting hit with this. I don't have a binging problem. I created a subconscious feedback loop because after my last competition prep, I did a very good job of making sure that I wasn't going to binge gummy bears or sour gummy worms or bread or any of the shit that I've done in years past. I've learned my lesson and I negotiated with myself that if I was going to overdo it, I was going to do it with protein bars. So I accidentally created a feedback loop with protein bars and Wawa specifically. And now I have to break it. But at least when we acknowledge it, it's so much easier to break because you cannot break a problem if you aren't aware that there is a problem to begin with. So I was sitting here thinking that I was having an issue with over consuming or binging protein bars. No, the issue is not there because I went days and days and days without even thinking about it. The issue is of the association that I now have with Wawa and the way that the brain gets triggered. So the way that a subconscious feedback loops, there can be a trigger that causes a thought, there's an emotional response, and then the body takes over subconsciously. Now, if you aren't aware, depending on the statistic that you look at, your brain is run between 94 and 99% by the subconscious. Your day-to-day actions are run by the subconscious. And 70% of it was formed before the age of 7, which means 7-year-old you is running the show for almost 3/4 of the day. Since the subconscious is running the majority of the day, a lot of the actions that we do, we are not even consciously deciding. We're not even aware. This is something that we are doing automatically because the brain loves to make things fast and safe. What it considers to be safe is anything that's familiar. So when we create a neural pathway or we create a habit, that it doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. If the brain knows, hey, if I have this emotion, I'm going to cause this reaction, and it could be for literally anything. If you can say, hey, I have this emotion, it's almost like freaking Pavlov's dogs. Anywho, you're causing, there's like a spark, there's a trigger, and then the body reacts a certain way. And we're not even conscious. We're not even aware. So how do we break that down? A lot of it is repetition. One, you have to be aware that there's a fucking problem to begin with. And two, once we do, then we need to find a way to break the loop. So if you see the trigger, for me, I removed the trigger altogether. When I was in Miami, there was no trigger. So the cycle couldn't happen. So if you can't remove the trigger, then we have to break the chain somewhere else. Okay? So let's say I'm back in Orlando. There's Wawa everywhere here. So I can't remove the trigger, but I can be conscious that when I pass by and I get the feeling, I get the emotion, because our bodies are really funny. It might not be that I'm hungry. I'm not hungry. My body has just created a response of, oh, every time she passes by Wawa, she's gonna just, the hunger cues are going to start. So I ignored the hunger cues and I just kept going. So I am now making it a point that I'm not stopping at Wawa anymore. I have one right there. It's right next to my apartment. I'm not going there anymore. Why? Because I've created a negative association that is not aligned with my goals. So I'm just removing it altogether. I might not be able to remove the visual trigger, but I can stop myself from stopping there. And this can apply to so many different things. It can apply to the things that we have inside of our home. It can apply to restaurants or places that we go to that you just see on the side of the road, and it causes a trigger. And then all of a sudden you feel hungry and you're like, oh, that sounds really good. And your brain is creating a subconscious feedback loop. It's creating the path of least resistance. Oh, every time I see that, or you're driving and you're emotional, every time I'm sad, I'm going to go get ice cream. And now all of a sudden, every time you feel a little inkling of sadness, you're craving sugar, you're craving ice cream, and it's not aligned with your goals. So being overall aware of what causes triggers is going to help tremendously. So that way we can figure out where we can break the chain in the loop, where we can break the loop. Okay, so if we can't remove the trigger, then we need to find a way to change the response. Now, changing the hormonal response is very difficult because it's already been formed. So what we can do is break the reaction. If we are conscious and we can take 5 seconds, which we talked about this on another video, if we can take 5 seconds between a thought and a reaction, we get to decide differently. And when you decide differently is when you're able to break the loop. So when I drove by Wawa, I said, I'm not getting protein bars. I'm not stopping at Wawa. We're just not stopping at all. So that way I might see the trigger, but I'm not going to allow myself to stop, because then I'm just going to reinforce this loop over again. And the more times that you reinforce the loop, the harder it is to break. Okay? So I want you to really take a deep dive into your life. I want you to just get really fucking aware for one day or for 1 hour of the thoughts and emotions that you're feeling, whether we're anxious, we're sad, we're angry, whatever the case may be. Take an hour of your day, a couple hours of your day, take a full day just to be fully conscious of what is coming in and out. This is one thing that we practice in the very first month inside of Sovereign Body, is being aware, catching any negative thoughts, because the more aware that we are of our thoughts, the easier it is to catch when we have a subconscious feedback loop that is not aligned with our highest self and with our goals. All right. I hope that this was helpful. I hope it was enlightening, and that you can take this information and run with it and start to figure out, is there something that's causing a trigger, that's causing me to have a loop in my life that is not aligned with my highest self or with my goals? Okay? And let me know. Put it in the comments so I can help you fucking break through this. All right? That's it. Thanks. Bye.